so people can start joining.
Very good. Okay, Sam, let's go ahead and kick off.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is video editing with DaVinci Resolve, and presenting will be Jeff Powell, software development manager at Clearwater Analytics. And he'll be showing us a live demo showing how to get started with video editing. So just matters of housekeeping. This session will be recorded and available on the Clearwater YouTube channel. And there will be a Q&A feature through Zoom. So go ahead and ask any questions you want, and they'll present those to Jeff to answer as he sees fit. And then there's a link to a help desk Zoomer if anyone needs help with that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. Very excited to talk with you about editing videos with DaVinci Resolve. As Sam said, my name is Jeff Powell. I am a software development manager here at Clearwater Analytics. I have been at the company for about 7 years now. And by day, I'm a manager, and by night, apparently, I've turned myself into a hobbyist post-production engineer. But it's interesting. I've only started about 5 months ago. I had a personal project in mind and set out to learn how to do video editing for this project, and was surprised to find how easy it was to break into it and start figuring things out and making real cool things. Without further ado, let's start talking about the tool itself. So I made this talk very tool specific about a tool called DaVinci Resolve. The reason why I chose DaVinci Resolve, there's actually a lot of different reasons why I chose DaVinci Resolve. For one, it's actually used by many full-scale professional production companies out there, making both very popular movies as well as TV shows that you more than likely have watched in the recent past. DaVinci Resolve is a very comprehensive tool. It can do just about anything that you can imagine. It's very flexible, and you can tailor it to the needs that you have for your own projects. Very powerful, It's easy to learn, as I hope you'll see through the course of this demo. And the best part that most people don't recognize or realize, it is a free piece of software to use. Yeah, that's right. This is there's no better time to break into this hobby than now because the tooling is free and you can make all sorts of crazy, awesome things happen. Before we dive into the actual demo, I want to prime you with the idea of DaVinci Resolve's post-production workflow. The interface that they give you is divided into 7 major tabs. And each tab is kind of in this sort of rough chronological order going from left to right. The first tab is the media tab. This is the tab where it helps you gather all of your different video clips, audio clips, still images, whatever you need for your video project, and pulling them from those sources into your project. And it also helps with the task of keeping those clips organized. If you can imagine a full production movie, you've got thousands upon thousands of these clips. You need to have a system of organization in place, and this tab helps you do that. The cut tab is then responsible for assisting you in making what are called your rough cuts. This is simply the process of taking your clips, putting them into a single timeline in the right order, kind of roughly trimming them up so that you've got the right start and stop points on your videos, adding whatever text you need on your videos, like if you're doing a documentary or that kind of thing, as well as adding any kind of audio tracks and just kind of roughly positioning those relative to the other clips in the video. And that's it for the cut tab. The edit tab is then responsible for diving one level deeper and doing all of your fine grain tweaks, all of your animations, and a variety of other things that I'm going to show you. The Fusion tab we're actually going to be skipping in this presentation because it deserves a talk unto itself. And it's a very advanced subject of producing 3-dimensional graphics as well as animated 2-dimensional graphics and 3D to then plop into your video project. And you'll see these in like the fancy openers on like the news station. You know, they kind of have this Fox News and they have this rotating banner kind of a thing. You can make stuff like that in DaVinci Resolve. The color tab does what it says on the tin. You both correct bad color artifacts from the camera that it was captured from, but also you can do color grading. That's the intentional changing of colors to create a certain mood or effect, like a lens flare or creating sort of this blue tint to everything to make it feel kind of moody. Fairlight is the trademark audio post-production tool from DaVinci Resolve. It handles all of your audio needs. And then finally, the Deliver tab is responsible for handling all of your shipping. And this has to do with shipping specific aspects of your video project. So you can ship just your soundtrack from your video. You can ship multiple different resolutions from this tab. And it provides a whole bunch of flexibility to your delivery needs. So there you go. You have the whole entire post-production workflow. Let's stop the talk and let's go directly to demo time. So I'm going to switch my share screen super quick and head into DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to hide the meeting controls. Awesome. Okay. So welcome to DaVinci Resolve. As soon as you download it and install it on your computer, it's a fairly straightforward process. You'll boot it up, create a new project, and you'll start with this screen here on the Media tab. It's subdivided into 2 sections. You've got all of your different folders on your computer, as well as any other disks that you have attached to it, accessible here. And then here on the bottom section of the screen, you have all of the clips that you have added to your project and will subsequently be accessible to all these other tabs down here. I've already done some pre-work to help shorten the length of this talk. And so I found an old clip from the archives of Clearwater. We had this celebration that happened a while ago. I'm going to turn off the audio. Oh, I forgot to actually share my audio. Maybe I'll do that later. we had a celebration for some big event that happened at the company, and we were surprised by somebody bringing in a piñata and decided to have some fun with that. And so we had some fun bursting that. For the sake of exercise, we're going to take this video and we are going to be splitting it into 5 separate little, well, actually I already have, I apologize. I have split this video into 5 different clips representing the 5 different people who took a swing at this piñata. And we are going to create a composed video that just has the sections of each of these clips where they whack the piñata. And that's it. And I'm going to show you some things along the way. The first thing that you're going to do is head to your cut tab. And up here you have your media pool where I have all the clips that I've previously gathered. The first task that you have is to set what are called your in and out points. Before I describe in and out points, there's something I need to show you. Currently, I would have expected to see a preview of the clip over here, but I'm not. And the reason for that is it's actually showing me a video preview of my entire timeline, my final product that is down here at the bottom. Currently, I haven't added anything, and so this video is completely blank. And that's because of this little button right here. It's currently viewing the timeline. If I switch this over to the source clip, now I'm previewing all of my clips over here. So your first task, as I was saying before, is to set your in and out points. If I take my track head right here and drag it all the way over here, you'll notice that this is actually the spot where I start the video clip. But this is all part of the video that I want to just cut out and not include in the final clip. I want this part right here where he winds up and takes the swing and then finish it out. The motivation for doing that, let's pretend I don't have these in and out points set. If I were to take this video and just drag it down, it's going to drag the entire clip down into the timeline, right? Oh, and I've actually dragged it out of my folder. Good job. That's not the worst thing in the world. You can go and trim after the fact using some tools right here or tools in the edit tab to do those trims. But I find it tremendously easier to do those cuts here in the cut tab. There are 2 ways to do it. You can drag this little gray tracker and then put it right where you want it to start. So he takes his little wind up right there. I'm going to stop it. The other way you can set your in and out point is using hotkeys. There's a ton of hotkeys. I for setting your in point, O for setting the out point. I've gone ahead and set in and outs for all these other clips here. I'm simply going to take all of these, select them all. I'm going to drag them down into my timeline, and bam, I've created the first cuts of my video. And you notice that it does those quick snaps right where he whacks it, quick little reaction, and then it snaps directly to the next one, and then to the next one, etc. So we are moving along quickly. Let's go ahead and head to the edit tab. The edit tab is where we're going to get a little bit more fine-grained. I am not going to be able to show you every single feature that is available in DaVinci Resolve, but I'll show you a few things that are kind of fun. So the first thing is you can change and customize this bottom section however you need. I'm currently changing these using a series of hotkeys. There are also these bars right here that allow you to change a lot of these same things, and these click and drags over here to also change some things. So the first thing that I want to show you is I had this really cool idea for this final one where we finally burst the piñata. I want to play back this thing in slow motion. I think that would be a really cool thing to do. So the way to do that in DaVinci Resolve is you're going to right click on this thing, this clip, and you say retime controls. And it opens up this interesting interface. The way you use this interface, you're going to set your track head right before he whacks it. You're going to come down to this little point. You're going to say add speed point. And I know that not everyone's video project's going to need slow motion, but it's going to help show a concept that you may want to use in your video projects here in a sec. So I'm going to add this other speed point here. You're then going to click this drop down right here and say change speed, and I want it to be 25%. Boom. it figures out how long it needs to stretch out the video to accommodate for the fact that it's playing at 1/4 speed. And so now if we take this track head and we go right here, you'll notice it starts, boom, and then we go into slow motion. You can get even more fancy than this. We can open up the retime curve. So this is the concept that I'm wanting to show you. Every single one of the aspects of a video can be plotted on a line chart where the y-axis is representing in the retime curve the frame that is being displayed on the video. And the further to the right, and then the change in slope represents the speed in which you're playing it back. So you notice that it does this sort of step function change, but DaVinci Resolve is incredibly flexible. It allows you to make things curvy. You can add Bezier curves to all of these changes. And now you should see the speed change in a much more gradual kind of fashion. That same concept applies to any other aspect of a video clip. Think, for instance, like zoom. I can change the zoom of a video by clicking my mouse over here and dragging it to the left and to the right. And you notice that line is also changing in the bottom to represent the changes in the zoom overall, the whole entire video. Well, what happens? Oh, and I guess I also wanted to show, like, you can also change the position of your video, and you can also change the rotation of your video. All of these things can actually be animated. So let me come back to this retime curve and show you something cool. Right here where I set this speed point, I'm going to set what's called a keyframe. I'm going to keyframe. I want my zoom to actually be set to 1. Cool. I'm going to set a keyframe right here. And then I also want to set a keyframe right here. And what this is saying is, at these moments in time, I want my zoom to be set to 1. That's what I'm doing by clicking this keyframe button right here. But then I'm going to go into the middle and I'm going to set a keyframe. But then at this keyframe, I want my zoom to zoom way in. Okay, notice the effect of this curve now. The zoom starts at 1, but then it increases, it interpolates what the zoom needs to be in order to make the keyframe be the value I set at this moment right here. And then I can get even more fancy and say, I want this thing to be as gradual as possible. And you can set all kinds of Bezier curves on this thing. Now watch what happens. Whoa. Isn't that cool? And it didn't take very long to do a really fancy animation to my video like that. So incredibly powerful. I'm really a huge fan of DaVinci Resolve's overall power. I'm going to hide these controls, hide the curve. Awesome. The other thing I wanted to show in here, actually 2 more things. One of the things I wanted to show was your transitions. Your transitions are an incredibly important part of a video project. It adds a lot of polish for not a lot of work. DaVinci Resolve comes with a variety of different transitions available to you. Usually I choose just cross dissolves or dip to color transitions. All you have to do is click on the transition you want, drag it down, and it has some pretty good sensible defaults that you can change if you want to. But take a look at this effect. Now it starts black and has a nice gradual build up into the video. Let's also add a bunch of cross dissolves in there and see the effect of that. Yeah, that looks just so much cleaner, right? Really like that effect. So we'll add cross dissolves to everything and we'll be all set. At this point, I want to go back to the cut tab and show you a couple of other things that I skipped on purpose. The first thing is titles. Titles are simply just pieces of text that you want to throw out onto the screen. They can either be standalone titles, or you can add them to a second video track on top of your video clips and have text overlaying the top, like when you see in a documentary and it shows somebody's name. So here I'll kind of demonstrate. You can shove a title inside of here, drop out your inspector tab, and you just change the text right here. foreshadow, right? To say like, he's the one who's gonna break the piñata. And you can mess with all of the settings that you want over here, your color, position, all kinds of fun stuff over here. So here's what that looks like. Whoosh. That's pretty fun. So there's titles. The other thing I want to show you is when we pull back our media pool again, I want to simulate what you see in those YouTube videos where they have like multiple clips from the video you just watched at the end with a little like, please subscribe sort of thing at the end. The way that you do something like that, you're going to take all of your videos. Oh, I forgot something. I'm glad I spotted it though. All of these brought their audio down with them. That's what these curves mean right here. And you can stretch this out to see more if you'd like. There is a way in the cut tab to bring down just the video. And that's this little icon right here. So I'm going to take part number 1, part number 2, part number 3, part number 4. We'll stop there. And then I'll head to the edit tab. So now I've got all of these video tracks. The current effect that happens is the top video wins. It's just going to sit on top of all the other videos that are playing in the background. I want to be able to see all of these videos at the same time. So the way that we do that is we need to move it out of the way. We're going to move our track head to right here. And then I'll start selecting these one at a time. I'm going to hide my effects. You could fix this by changing the position over here and moving it, but there's actually an easier way to do this. If you click this little transform button over here, you can use handles on an interface to make those changes. So I can just click and drag and resize in this sort of fashion. So I'll take video number 3 and I'll kind of make it a similar size and I'll put it here. And then video 2, I'll drag this down right here. And then the final video, I'll drag it down like this. Let's kind of move some things over, make some space. Right, and you can imagine positioning these in the corners or halves or whatever you would like for this kind of effect. And then we'll also do something kind of fun. Let's see if we can line all of these up so that they hit the piñata at the same time. So here I'm gonna have this video hit right here. And then I'm just gonna kind of drag this to the moment where he finally whacks it right about there. Cool. And then I'm going to drag this over so that it doesn't show up too early. This one, he hits it right about here. And this one, he whacks it right about there. You know, pretty close. You can zoom in, get really particular about it if this was the kind of thing you were working on. But now we have this cool effect where we end. Whack, they all hit it at the same time. Well done. Very cool. Okay, so that's it for the edit tab. I want to show you the color tab really quickly. So there are a lot of things going on in this screen. I have no time to talk about all of them. Please go look up a training or look up some documentation. There's a lot of really cool things you can do in here. The one thing I will recommend though is go to each of your clips and click on this little A right here. And that'll do a nice auto balance on all of your clips. And you'll notice this little A show up to say that it's doing an auto correction of your color. Go through all of them, add that auto correction, and it'll be awesome. A couple of cool things to show off. You can also do really cool things like I want to add this node into my color graph, and it's a left to right kind of thing, like just trace through green, apply this effect, then apply this effect, and then go out to the monitor and finish up. And in here, I want this circle. And in this circle, anything that's inside this circle, I want it to be colored red, right? And so we'll change all of this. And that will have the effect of adding this red circle on top of anything that's going on, right? So you can imagine like there's all kinds of stuff that you can do with that. DaVinci Resolve is super smart too. It has things where it can automatically track. So I can add that circle and then I can tell it, look at these points on somebody's face and then go. And it'll just automatically track and apply whatever coloring effects you want to that face. It's extremely powerful. The other thing, speaking of tracking that it can do, if you go into this tracking tab, and then you'll switch from this tab to here, the stabilizer, if you took video on like a phone and it's really shaky, it has automatic stabilizing correction in its software. You simply just select your clip, hit stabilize, and lo and behold, you will have a much more steady video that does not shake as much. So that's pretty powerful, really cool. Let's head into Fairlight. Okay, so the first thing that I'll show you with Fairlight has to do with changing the track type. Normally, especially if you're doing video work from like a phone, you are recording from a single microphone. Since you're recording from a single microphone, you want your audio channels to all be mono tracks, not stereo. If you change stereo, you could introduce effects where your changes sort of apply to only one of the channels of stereo and not the other. If you change it to mono, it just makes things super safe, super clear. I'm changing one source of audio. Now, if I play back in mono, you're only going to hear it on one side of your headphones or one side of your speakers. So if you wanted to play back in stereo, the typical way to do that is, and this is done by default, you're going to assign your audio tracks to a bus. And you can have multiple audio tracks that all feed into a single bus. And then that has the effect of, I can change the volume for my individual audio tracks if I want, or I can make sure that everything is balanced within itself, and then I can change the volume of the whole entire bus. And then I change my bus to be a stereo bus, and that will take your mono tracks and it will play the mono track in both channels of a stereo output. Cool. So I'm going to delete my empty track. Your main task in the Fairlight tab is to look for these heavy spikes. Anytime you have a heavy spike, you're going to have a really loud noise that could, create that effect of blowing out your speakers. You don't want that. So your main task is to go in and bring those down. It's super easy to do that. Grab this selection tool, select this piece of audio, and then you're going to grab this volume bar that's kind of hiding right here in the upper third. What this is going to do is it's going to change the volume in this section right here, again, using the same keyframe mechanism that we've seen before. Bam. So it's set 4 keyframes to make that change. And now the audio is not going to be so loud. I'm not going to worry about playing the audio back to you. So yeah, your task is to do that very same thing for all of these spikes right here. One might ask, well, Jeff, why don't we just down the volume of the whole entire clip? Well, what that does is, yeah, that helps the peaks come down to an acceptable level, like around like 10 decibels or quieter. What it also does as a side effect is anything that's kind of quiet in your video, it makes really quiet to where you can't hear it anymore. And so it's actually much better to try and make all of the important sounds in your track to be roughly the same size and loudness, or at least relatively closer to each other. And then if things are too loud or too quiet, you can then change the overall volume and everything will stay roughly balanced with each other. Cool, so there's that. Another thing I want to show you is your sound effects. There's actually a lot of really fun and cool sound effects that you can add to your video. One that I would recommend putting on all of your clips is this noise reduction one. All you have to do, same as transitions, you're going to take this thing, drag it over your clip, And then it's going to present you with some settings for that particular clip. One thing I like to do is to turn on auto speech mode if I have people talking. That has tended to give me better output overall, but that gets rid of the background hiss that you sometimes hear in like phone recordings and that sort of a thing. You can get rid of those kinds of effects. Play with all of these other ones. They're super fun and also really helpful if you've got some other weird audio effects going on inside of your video. Cool. At this point, once you've gone through this whole section of the workflow, it's time to go back to your edit tab and play back through your whole entire video. And just pay attention as if you were like a random viewer of this video and try and figure out, are there any random little things that should be cleaned up or changed now that I've gone through all these edits? And then if you want to show it to your stakeholders, you can either show them in your edit tab directly, or you can go to this deliver tab. The way you navigate this deliver tab, or at least the way that I do, you're going to click on this YouTube link right here. Not to say that that's going to automatically ship to YouTube, although you can do that if you'd like. It just has some nice default settings for people who don't know what they all mean, like me, who started 5 months ago. Name your file, put a location, check the resolution, the frame rate, make sure your audio is coming from your bus. And then once everything is all set, you'll say add to render queue. What might trip you up is that actually doesn't make the video yet. It adds it to a queue. So you can actually queue up a lot of different resolutions. And then you can run all of them all at the same time, like in parallel or synchronously, depending on your settings, right? But once you hit this render all button, that's what's actually going to apply your edits to your final video and put it down on your disk so that you can make those changes. And that's pretty much it for our whirlwind tour of DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to change the share back over to my slides for some quick finish up. I'm not going to read through all these bullets. It's mostly for being able to see this in the recording after the fact, but it gives you the general workflow. You're going to hit your media tab. You're going to make your rough cuts. You're going to head to the edit tab, do some color touch up, stabilize any shaky clips, fix up your audio and rebalance it to what you need and set the final volume of your bus so that it's a good acceptable level for the stuff you captured, and then ship and let all of your stakeholders see what they think of it. I just barely scratched the surface of what DaVinci Resolve is able to cover, as you can imagine. And so I strongly encourage you to go download it, go practice yourself, and then go check out some of the resources that are available online. Personally, I watched this Udemy course that was very helpful. Don't mind the DaVinci Resolve 15 in the URL. The guy has been doing these lectures for years, and he's just been keeping them up to date within the same lecture. And then also the actual product website for DaVinci Resolve has over a dozen different tabs of all of the different features that it can do inside of the software. Going through and skimming through that catalog can give you a good idea of what kinds of things you would want to incorporate in your own project and what kinds of things you'd want to learn more about. Otherwise, that's pretty much what I've got. Really appreciate you taking the time to come chat, and happy to show you a little bit more. Let's go ahead and take some questions.
Yeah, Jeff, if you pull back open the Resolve window, we could have some questions that you could probably demonstrate in there.
Okay.
Can you zoom in and do frame accurate editing?
Yeah, you definitely can. So the simple way you would do that is I would blow this thing way up as much as I could, and then as I would zoom this as far in as possible, right? And now we're talking, you can see here it's snapping frame by frame. And then you can make whatever edits you want from there. Say for instance, I wanted to change my colors on a very specific frame. Ooh, I don't have as much experience with this. You might have to come back to me on color, but I know at least on the edit tab, you can get it that close in and make all of your nitty-gritty changes that you might need for editing.
Okay, then we have some comments regarding the audio section.
Okay.
Can you load video with 5.1 audio?
Yes, you can. I don't have an example of that, but yes, it has all the support that you need to do full up to 7.1 surround sound video changes. So go look up documentation on that. I don't have specific guidance I can give in 30 seconds or less.
Okay, and then a comment that Audacity has similar features to that.
This is true. Audacity is a wonderful and fantastic tool. Completely up to your preference. If you would like to outsource your audio changes to Audacity, make the changes there, and then import the audio from Audacity into your DaVinci Resolve project. Or if you want to make all of the changes in a one-stop shop here in DaVinci Resolve, completely up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with and are excited about, jump into that.
And then a question, if Resolve has a dynamic range compressor?
Yes, and it looks like Kyle answered that question for himself. He just saw a multi-band compressor, and de-esser probably has a simple compressor
Yes.
too. Yeah, like I said, it has a lot of really fancy things in here. Look at each one of these and try them out on sample clips, and you will probably find that it can do what you are looking for. Here's your multi-band compressor right here.
Another question related to sound effects. Do you recommend applying sound effects before or after balancing the audio?
That's a great question. I think it would depend on what kind of edits you're making. So like noise reduction, I would recommend doing noise reduction first before balancing audio, because you're going to be balancing based on sort of what you see, but also you're going to play back and see like, what do you hear? And if you can get rid of any extra noise that you don't want in the final product anyways, get rid of that up front, and then you can be balancing against the true audio that you do want to be filtering out to the end. But I can imagine that there are other effects where I want to get the underlying sound right and balanced first before I apply some kind of modulation if I want to make a robotic voice or something like that. So it kind of depends.
There was a question that was answered with a comment, but I'd like to read it out loud
Okay.
for the video recording. I've always struggled with the fact that the demo view seems like it has lower frame rate than the real thing. Is there a quick way to view something closer to the real video without fully rendering?
I have an answer to that. I'm curious what the comment said.
It was my comment that you can enable proxy videos and have a lower resolution for the proxy, and that should improve the frame rate.
Yes, there is another way that you can do it if you have a lot of edits or a lot of videos on screen and the playback is slowing down the frame rate dramatically. Another thing that you can do is select any of these videos, right click, and then you can generate optimized media. And what that does is it goes through the process of kind of doing a caching of the rendering of your edits so far. And then the playback will use what's cached on your machine for that playback. Not perfect, but it's something else that can help with that playback. And it's certainly something that the DaVinci Resolve crew has considered and put in some feature work into.
There's another question. How fancy can you get with encoder settings for rendering? Any good knobs for X264 tuning, perhaps X265 support?
I actually don't comprehend that question, but I am certain that they have it. Let's see here. What can we find? So I see that. So I'm guessing you can.
Yeah, and if
Sorry.
you choose the custom option, there's even more control as well.
Very good. You can change all of these formats right here. Yeah. You can do all kinds of stuff. Oh, it even tells you how much disk space you're going to use. That's great. Good questions, everyone. Really good questions. Anything else that you want to take a look at while we're here?
I concede a question.
Huh?
I already know the answer, but I'll see if you do.
Huh?
What would be the limitations of the free version versus the paid version?
That's an excellent question. Yeah, so I don't have the website up right away, but my impression of the paid studio version of DaVinci Resolve, it has to do with being able to scale up. And so scaling up in a couple of different ways. One, if you have a team of people working on a video project or multiple teams working on different aspects of a video project, the studio version adds some nice features to allow for live collaborative editing of the video project. You can kind of see what people are tweaking. It adds merge conflict resolution kinds of tooling into the project, and those kinds of things. It also scales up in terms of like the number of data sources that you want to plug in and pull video from, as well as the ability to like ship out your videos out to a render farm if you've got, you know, a really heavy video rendering job that needs to be done. That's kind of the impression I get, is it's when you're trying to scale up your production is when the studio version becomes worthwhile. But in terms of like what kinds of features you can do to a video, I haven't really seen too much limitation to what is available in the free version, which has been the really surprising and gratifying part of using this tool and diving into it.
I will add to that I have seen one limitation that might be applicable to everyday users, and that is being able to directly import H.265 video in the HEVC format, which is the format GoPros use. That does require the studio version to use them directly, but you can always encode before editing, and that would be a workaround for that.
That makes sense. Very good point. Yeah, I don't have a GoPro myself, so I haven't had to run into that problem. Good shout out though.
There's a question, have you ever used Shotcut? If so, how would you compare the strengths of the two programs?
I apologize, I have not used Shotcut. I didn't research it either. It didn't come across my radar. So I see Craig's question, Sony Movie Studio, any comparison there? As I said, I started this hobby 5 months ago. I have no experience outside of DaVinci Resolve whatsoever because it's met my needs. And so that's where I'm at currently. Any other questions? Or cool tips?
So I have played around with multiple different video editors, and I will comment that DaVinci Resolve has one of the more powerful color grading tools out of the video editors. And that's a way that this can stand above some of the other video editors.
For sure. I remember in the various coloring lectures that were in that Udemy course, he had a video clip where it was a nice grassy, hilly countryside, and the video was kind of panning across. And he went through the steps of changing everything from being green to being a very fall time kind of brown and orangey kind of color. And it looked like it was fall time. It was quite remarkable. Okay, Sam, I think it's pretty quieted down. Let's go ahead and give the survey.
All right, I've posted the link in the chat. I think that seems to be the easiest way for everyone to access the survey, so they can click it directly. As well as soon as the webinar ends, it should automatically redirect you if you're using an updated Zoom client. But thank you everyone for attending, and hopefully we see you in another session.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day.